Okay, we'll begin with the opening mantra. Vasudevasutam devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, all right. So, does everybody remember where we were? What have we covered so far? Oh, again, I've done this mistake. View. Uh, oh, how do I go back? Again, I've done this mistake. My screen. Okay. Mm, Okay. So we are on chapter 4. This is Gyan Karma Sannyas Yoga. So far, what have we learned? Uh, Krishna begins by saying that, Arjun, I'm going to give this knowledge that I have given to the sun god, Vivasvat. And then he traces the lineage. And what is the learning for us? The learning is that Gyan happens through Shunya and not Shastra. And the idea that Krishna says, I have given it to sun god, it is connected with the idea of light, of the light of awareness within us. Once the light of awareness within us is shining bright, we are, Gyan happens to us. Uh, the important thing that we learned was that the ones who said, the rishis, they are the ones who are gyanis. Rishis are gyanis, not just the people who heard and wrote it because it was not in their experience. So the learning for us there is you build this capacity to receive these kind of truths. It's about what is your receptacle like, and only if your receptacle is maintained in such a way, is maintained in a particular way, that this gyan ki dhara, what we call as gyan ki dhara, can flow into us. Okay. And then Krishna speaks about parampara, how this dhara of gyan is like a parampara, but it has, because it has flown through so many years and there have been so many interpretations. That is why it has become a little lupt, it has become clouded, it has become obscured. But truth is eternal, it is beyond the dimension of time. Important point for us there in those slides was, what is passing is not time. What is passing is us. Life is here. We are just passing, passing, passing. We are slowly effacing, and we will finish. So, whatever time we've got, how are we going to use it? How are we going to, use that time to receive this gyan or to come into this higher state of consciousness? Krishna speaks in two dimensions. Remember when he says, I passed on this knowledge so people can say, oh, Krishna, many people, when Bhagavad Gita came to the West and when they started looking at it, there's no idea of awareness. Buddhist, see, this idea of awareness, which is really coming from Oriental spiritual literature, Buddhism, and in through the Indian texts, through Yoga Sutras, liberation, awareness is not such a part of Western culture. There's more stress on morality, at least popularly understood. So when they are talking in terms of morality, they don't, you're looking at the person and you say, I, how can Krishna be so egotistical? How can he say that he will do this? He is claiming himself to be God and things like that. So we spoke about how Krishna speaks in two dimensions. He speaks as the small I, where he is addressing Arjun as his friend. He is also speaking from Ishvara consciousness because he is established in Ishvara consciousness. So then when he uses I, that's just a limitation of language. How do you express that which cannot be expressed? So he uses that I in that context. Correct? We understand this, right? Everybody understands this. Yes, Ratna? Yeah. Okay. So um, So he says that I'm going to tell you, Arjun, because you are my friend, you're my sakha. So then the question is, so would he not share this knowledge with others? Is Krishna partial to share it only with Arjun? So that's not the case. The point is that whenever truth like this has to be shared or passed on, it must happen in an atmosphere of Maitri. It requires intimacy. And we spoke of that, even things that we all have shared among ourselves, or when we create closed groups like Krishna Connect, we can share intimate details from our life because there is a sense of friendship. There is no judgment. There is no criticism of another person. So Arjun established in that state of Maitri, of no criticism, to Krishna. So Krishna can share this with him. It happens in an atmosphere of intimacy. So, and that's what happens even between guru and disciple. Okay. Um, so in verse 3, he says, Bhakto asi me sakha. Krishna uses that word for Arjun. Then Krishna goes on to declare that he is not born; he has manifested himself through his yoga maya. Um, and we remember that verse, which is very popular from Bhagavad Gita, which used to come in Mahabharat. It comes in this chapter, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyuthanam Adharmasya uh, Abhyuthanam Adharmasya परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. I will come again and again. I will manifest whenever there is adharma to establish dharma. Okay, so and Osho explains to us that dharma never gets really destroyed. It can slightly fade. It begins to fade. So when that fading happens, when it becomes lupt, when it becomes obscured, Krishna will come to do this. And just for your interest, somewhere it said that Krishna's next avatar or whatever will be Kalaki. I read this somewhere. I don't know about it. And Buddha said when he will be born again, I think he'll be called Maitri. Some such thing is there in the literature. Now, then we discussed about what is Vairagya and what is Vitaraga. Correct? Everybody understands that. So Vitaraga is going beyond sukh dukh, not running towards happiness or not running away. So it's like, remember the householder and the monk. The monk who says, I have dropped all this wealth, and the householder who says, I have earned $50,000. Both of them have their mind on money and wealth. So that's not a state of vitarag. That is like vairagya. You're trying to run away from something. It's like still in that state, wanting to remove certain colors. Rag is color. Vairag is to remove those colors and become transparent. Vitrag means a person who is established in that state of transparent, so to say, can take on whatever color, that like the crystal, wherever it is, it takes that colors, and that is how it understands an object when the consciousness goes and touches that object. Now, then we spoke of so only the ones who know Krishna like this, they are the ones who become Vitrag, Vitbhaya, and Vitkrodha. And all this is possible. How will you know Krishna like this? Through Jnana-rupi tapas. What is Jnana-rupi tapas? Jnana-rupi tapas means that your will is my will. It's like what Jesus says on the cross, thy will be done. He's getting nailed, but he is not, there's no complaint. It's like whatever is God's will, even if these nails are being poked into me, that's his will. He's so accepting. He's so fluid. He flows with whatever is happening in life. That is Jnana Rupi Tapas. So, we are not in those states. And even if, we are not in those states like Mirabai who want to merge into Krishna, how do we invite auspiciousness into life? Then Krishna goes on to talk about yagna. How yagna, slowly through these yagnas, we can move into Gyan. So, um, Then we spoke about, who is your God. Whenever we are doing a yagna happens around certain thing. Like you do a parikrama around God. So God is the center of your life. So whatever we are paying most attention to in our life, that is our God. Remember that. You may say that I worship Krishna or I worship Shiva, but the point is wherever your attention is flowing all the time, that is what you are worshiping, knowingly or unknowingly. A very important thing, and I think something that we should all bring awareness to in our own life. So, and then Osho Krishna says that, in whichever form a devotee bhajos me, bhajte hain, जिस भी form में कोई भी devotee मुझे भजता है, I also reciprocate in the same form. So God is an echo, and that will come back. So if you don't feel loved, that means we must have started the cycle at some point, and therefore we feel like that. And if something wonderful is happening to us, we feel loved, we feel that we are in a warm embrace, that means it must have started in some way. That is what we were giving to life. That was our offering into the yagna of life, and now the prasad is coming back. So the prasad can be a very nice sweet ripe banana. It can also be a rotten banana, but whether it's a sweet banana or a rotten banana, it's a prasad. So we don't say I'm not going to have it. You cannot discard it. We still accept it. This is Jnana Rupi Tapas. Later on, we'll speak of prasad. It comes in another chapter. So Ishvara is a resonance. So then Osho explains how mukti ke liye Paramatma, shaktiyon ke liye devtaon ko bhajo. Like if you just want some material well-being, then we do these small yagnas, small havans. We, just praying and worshipping to certain energies. So why is this not moving? All right, then he goes on. You can see the screen, right? Yeah. Okay. Then he goes on to speak about action and akarta, which he covers under the whole idea of varna. So, see, you're going to do gyan, you want to come into gyan. It is possible to come into gyan through action. Like Krishna's path is not about the renunciation of running away into the forest. He says, take the path of action, be here, be engaged in this world, and do your action as though. With this idea that you're not the doer, you're simply an instrument through which is allowing action or whatever is flowing at this point in life to flow through you. You just allow life to flow through you like that. So you become a karta. So then he goes on to describe how there are different varnas, and in each varna, how people were born in a certain varna so that they could really come into the highest and the best expression, and through that come into gyan and sannyas. Like for Arjun, it is the kshatriya, and through that he has been a kshatriya in many lifetimes. So through that, a moment of enlightenment can happen to him. Through that, he doesn't have to become a brahmin and take sannyas to come into to come into enlightenment. So we said that what is needed for enlightenment is the quality of your dhyan. The quality of your dhyan decides your enlightenment, not the varna that you are born in. Even a Shudra can come into enlightenment. It depends upon the quality of his dhyan. So whatever activity you are engaged in life, like I am not going into this again. We discussed quite a bit. Brahmin, Vaishya, Shudra, the people who are creating wealth, they can even through that they can come into it. The Shudra, the one who is like a surgeon or a craftsman or an artist, through the quality of his dhyan, he can come into enlightenment. Now the idea of akarta is very important. We discussed akarta. What is akarta? Akarta means while engaged in action, the I does not stay. For example, we took this example that time. We said, like you are walking on the road. What is the action that is happening? Walking on the road. Correct? Walking on the road is the kriya. But how do I identify or understand this action, I am walking. Now, Kriya is only walking on the road. When I say I am walking on the road, I have imposed or superimposed my I with the walking. Now it is not a karta. You have become karta. You have become the doer of the action. Just look at the kriya. Don't identify with the kriya. Walking is happening. Body is hungry, body is getting fed. So the moment you attach the I to the action, to the kriya, it becomes karta. It is no more a karta bhav. So the whole thing in Bhagavad Gita is Krishna is telling Arjun, you be with a karta bhav, you go ahead and engage in the war, do it as an instrument, do it as, as your dharma, as something that must be done. Don't run away from your dharma. It is what you have been trained for. So, but don't think that I am going to kill them. Don't attach that I to your action. That is what he's telling him, no? So, that your job is simply to fight the war. You just fight the war. That is all it is. Now you're seeing faces, you're seeing my teacher and my grandfather. No, this is the army that you have to fight. You go ahead and fight. That's it. So, okay. So ahamkar ka bhav is that I which coalesces with kriya, and the akarta is lost. Then we become karta. So he goes on to explore the idea of akarta. Osho has explained that. How do you come into akarta bhav? How will we become like that? Treat life as leela. We say, we always work for results. We always have expectations. Don't do that. Do it simply as an expression of joy. Whatever you are doing, if you do it simply as an expression of your joy, there will be no karta attached to it. It will automatically become a karta. So that is the way to engage in life, to strengthen the akarta bhav. And why does the karta bhav exist? Why do we have this? It is because avidya, kama, karma. This is the root cause. Because of avidya, we have desire. Because of ignorance, we have desire. Because of desire, we want to do action. I want to have a house like this. I want to have this much money in my bank account. I want to travel to these places. Now there is desire. To fulfill that desire, we engage in action. So when your action becomes desireless, it is simply there as an expression of your joy, then it becomes akarta. Now, desire for the fruit of action is indicating that you are preoccupied with future. And then we are always talking about be present, be in the now. So just, observing the contradiction there. And then we went on to study a little bit about the structure of time. Past, present, and future are the constructs of mind. Our present is future turned into the past. Remember, we spoke about how our present is just future turning into past. That is what our present is. We are never really totally into that present moment. We don't go into it totally. So making life into Leela. If you are very goal driven, then play will also become binding karma. We're just creating karma bandhan. Expectations create karma bandhan. So be a householder and live like a sannyasi, Krishna says. That is right renunciation. When you watch yourself doing whatever you are doing, then karma becomes a karma. So the act of witnessing, being a witness to whatever is happening, that also helps to strengthen the akarta within us. Then he spoke about the three different kinds of actions. What is karma? What is akarma, and what is nishiddha karma? Nishiddha karma was the important one, where we said it is karma that is usually prohibited. Like, you don't kill somebody, you don't hurt somebody. And remember, we spoke of that example of the butcher chasing the cow when he meets a Brahmin, and he asks the Brahmin, did you see the cow running? Now the Brahmin is lost. Should he speak the truth and destroy his dharma? Because as a Brahmin, how can he be a part of slaughter, cow slaughter? He cannot be part of that. So is this nishiddha karma? It is very difficult. to make rules and then understand what is nishid. Everybody's nishid, the karma, is unique. One has to really, like James says, jostle with what it means to be human and figure out for yourself in that moment and in that time what is the right and appropriate action. So always appropriate action. If you think appropriateness, then you will know what is the right thing to do. And this is our question. All of us struggle with this. Now, what is the right action? Okay, so then he goes on to we introduced Gyan, Mithya Gyan, and Agyan. Everybody knows what is Gyan, Mithya Gyan, and Agyan. Anybody here who wants a repetition of that? We know what's Gyan. Yes, I don't see anything on anyone's face. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So Gyan, everybody understands. Okay, Gyan is enlightenment. That state of enlightenment is Gyan. What is Agyan? Agyan is ignorance. Correct. What is Mithya Gyan? False knowledge. When you don't know, but you think that you know. And this is a very dangerous thing, because when you don't know and you think you know, you don't even begin to start your search for knowledge. This is dangerous. People who are ignorant and will accept I don't know, very nice, because agyan is what gives birth to gyan. Agyan, everybody is born with agyan. This is a natural state of being. Why it is? No, this is how it is. Human beings are born with agyan. And uh, uh, and the recognition that I don't know is wonderful, because that begins the journey. But mithya gyan, false knowledge, is a problem. Not knowing and thinking that you know is that's why it is called false. It is not true. It is not yes or no. It is just false. Then he goes and and that is what creates ahamkar also. And then we spoke of this idea of ahamkar as an itch. When there is ahamkar, it's like an itch. It's like a scab. You want to go scratch it, and it feels very nice when you scratch it. But after some time, that scratch begins to bleed and hurt. Ahamkar is like this. We spoke about how ahamkar wants caressing. You meet this person. Remember, we spoke of that. You meet this person every day when you're going for a walk, and then one day that person doesn't even look at you, or he comes after a long holiday and didn't even ask you. Not that you're going to have any meaningful conversation, but just that, oh, there was no acknowledgement. So, ahamkar always, that thing in us which wants to bind, which wants to connect, which wants to touch, which wants to caress, is ahamkar. It is that which creates bondage. And see, all of us are looking for bonds. I mean, if I am honest and truthful with myself, it's true. I am looking for bonds. I am looking for friends with people who see this whole group. This is a bond we have created with each other, isn't it? And I will not, honestly, I am looking to connect with people who are interested in this. I am looking for that bond. So I was listening to Sadhguru, and he did say that most of us are looking for bonds. Not we are more and more getting into bondage and not liberation. And be that as it may, maybe some of this is at a different level. He also says one very nice thing. He says it's all right to create bonds, but keep bonds such that if you want, you can be there. If you want to exit out of it, you can exit out of it as comfortably. Those bonds are beautiful bonds, but don't create bondage where you have gotten stuck. Now, when you want to come out, you're stuck. So he also speaks of that. And he says this in the context of our practices. He says, if you keep doing your practices, there will be bonds, there will be no bondage. You can continue to be in bonds. Obviously, if you're people and family, I want to be bonded with my child, of course. So, but those are bonds. Then you have those connections which are willingly taken up. But tomorrow, if I don't want, or if this drops off, I'm okay with it. I have a preference for this, but it does not compel me, nor will it disturb me if it is not there. It was very insightful for me to remember this, that there is a difference between bonds and bondage. Bonds can be very beautiful. Bondage is suffering. So So these are some of the main things that we covered and we learned. Then remember how Krishna goes on to speak about the different kinds of yagnas. Remember he speaks of fire ritual, that important verse which is normally chanted before our meals. Brahmarpanam, Brahma Havir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaitin Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. So that verse also comes here, and that's the first verse where he begins to speak of whole life as a yagna. And Swami Sarvapriyananda speaks for a long time on that. Um, hmm, let me see. Okay, so in that particular verse, the whole idea and the inspiration is how do you develop Brahma Drishti? How is it that you see everything as God? That is the invitation of that. Uh, that is the essence and invitation of that particular shloka. Uh, And remember, we spoke, I'm not going into this, but we spoke about the yagna. Really, that yagna is not just a physical yagna with fire, wheat, ghee. How ghee is like punya that we put into life. Offer. So there is a cosmic yagna which is already Krishna has started. Life is a cosmic yagna. The whole of humanity is participating in this yagna. Whatever action you do is an offering into that yagna. So offering of punya is like the ghee which needs to be worked. You take so much milk and then this much ghee comes out of it. So unlike wheat is like easily available. It's like seeds which are there. um, then so I'm not going into all of that, but we discussed, uh, everybody remembers that, right? Yeah, so um, that was the thing of yagna. And then we discussed about the quality of the fire, how it purifies, how it goes upwards, and the energy must move upwards. All of that we discussed. Okay. Now, uh, see, when we did if you go shloka by shloka, there is one shloka in which Krishna has spoken of the 5 kinds of yagna, which we spoke last to last class. Dravya yagna. So what Swami Sarvapriyananda does very nicely, he says, okay, look at the 12 yagnas. I like the way he has just put it, because sometimes when you go shloka by shloka, it becomes we're trying to understand the whole thing, so it can feel a little disjointed. So I like the structure of the 12 yagnas which he goes into. Oh, okay. So first is the Vedic fire sacrifice, which he speaks of. Okay, that is just the havans that you do for devatas, etc. And then the Vedic fire sacrifice. What we learned from Osho is that yes, in olden times they used to keep that fire burning all the time, but the fire burning was not just a physical fire; it was symbolic, and that's where we learned about the symbols of the yagna, the symbolic meaning of the wheat, of the ghee, of fire, all of that. So that's the first one. That's the Vedic fire sacrifice. But how should we now understand that Vedic fire sacrifice? Don't treat it like a physical thing alone. Then the highest form of yagna is Brahmarpanam, Brahma Havir, Brahmagna, which is developing Brahma Drishti. The third one is Deva Yagna, which can be described as puja or worship that you do to gods. Okay, then the sensory, then we spoke about how sensory inputs are being offered into the fire of awareness. So we spoke about the senses, and uh, you know that example where Osho says that we try to give God whatever pleases our senses. This flower pleases our senses, let me offer it to God. And then Osho says कि तुम क्या भगवान को बच्चा समझते हो कि तुम उनको टॉयज पकड़ा दोगे और वो खुश हो जाएंगे. So it's not that. He says you offer yourself, yours, that which derives the pleasure. Don't offer the object of pleasure, but the sense itself you offer. So we spoke of the senses. So sensory inputs are being offered into the fire of awareness where all devatas sit, which is this body itself. Awareness is here. Devatas sit inside this body. And uh, whatever sensory inputs are happening through the senses are going into this awareness. Then um, So offer the sense itself. And there we spoke about how Ramakrishna says, no, that you should become a flower that is worthy of offering to God. You yourself should become an offering to God, not a flower that you plucked from the garden. So then the verse 26 speaks of Sanyam. So regulate your senses. We spoke of this also. Regulate the consumption of sense objects. Sense regulation is fire, and sense activities are offering. Okay, sense regulation is that fire. If you look at the symbol of yagna, and the sense activity, whatever you're doing, is that offering. And he speaks of this in terms of emotional intelligence. So bringing that sanyam, you remember that shloka? Yeah. Okay, we'll go through these 12 yagnas. All this takes, repetitions. Then after, beyond the senses is the mind. So regulating the mind is reducing the desire itself, calming the mind. So the desire itself for hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, that has to be regulated. So there, Krishna has spoken of this. If you go through those verses, this is what is being said, and we discussed all this. Then in one verse, he speaks of these 5 yagnas. Dravya Yagna, Tapa Yagna, Yoga Yagna, Swadhyaya Yagna, Gyan Yagna. That was more recent, so I think you may remember. Dravya Yagna is offering your wealth, donations that people make. Some people are just very good at creating wealth. So they will just create wealth and they donate. That is called Dravya Yagna. Tapayagna means certain kind of austerities. You're fasting, a vow of silence, pilgrimage. You may say, like on Mahashivratri, I will stay up all night. So that's a certain kind of tapas that you take up. Yoga Yagna refers to Ashtanga Yoga of Maharishi Patanjali. And remember one thing that Osho told us here. He said, Dhyan is the safest and optimum technique that will burn the vritti slowly. Other techniques like fasting will be difficult and they can create delusions. Yogagni is easier than seva. We all think, na, seva karo, meva milta hai. So seva looks easy. Do seva and offer to Ishvara. But even if there is a tinge of I am exists, then it contaminates. So remember that thing of the umbrella falling, that example. And someone doesn't say thank you to you. So it's in connection with that. Then there is Swadhyaya Yagna. Swadhyaya Yagna, I think if all of us know, where we are saying, we spoke so much about Swadhyaya, which is really turning and looking within, becoming conscious of the self. Swami Sarvapriyananda on Swadhyaya Yagna has also mentioned that it includes recitation of mantras and singing of songs. But those of us who follow Yoga Sutras, Swadhyaya is such a big thing in Yoga Sutras. We look at it as awareness turned inwards. That is Swadhyaya. Then there is Gyan Yagna, which Osho explains Gyan Yagna as becoming an instrument of God. Gyan Yagna means I don't exist. Whatever the divine wants me to use me for, let him use. And look at his own life. Sometimes I look at Osho's life. He has really worked like that, no? Whatever the divine wants to do through me, I will accept. He was not allowed residence in any country. America had wanted to throw him out of America, and he was not allowed to go into any country. That is how they had, America had allies with other nations, because this was like one man against the most powerful nation. He spoke, and he spoke the truth. Whatever he felt, he said. And he had such a massive following. So they put him in the jail. Those of you who have read about him, and there was things that were done to his name, and he was asked to sign certain papers, a lot of things. If you read about his life, he really allowed whatever was happening. He says God must have had a plan. So he says, I did not even think I would live when I reached my moment of enlightenment, but there was a thread that was going. He had a severe problem in his spine. For 3 years, he was in America for that. He would go into silence. He never talked so much. Sometimes to just keep up, that enthusiasm of the people who were coming, he would just go in the car around and wave, but he couldn't. He had a problem with his spine. Anyhow, so Gyan Yagna is to allow the divine to do whatever it is doing, and then not have any judgments. This is good, bad, why is this happening to me? No complaints to Ishvara. Zero complaints to Ishvara. He had no complaints. So, how Swami Sarvapriyananda speaks of is, he says study of scriptures, and that is good for people like us who are beginning study of scriptures. That is how it is different from Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir Brahmagna, where you are seeing everything with Brahma Drishti. We have not reached the stage of Brahma Drishti. He says Shravana Manana, the first two steps of Advaita Vedanta, Shravana Manana and Nididhyasam is application. But Shravana means listening and then contemplating on these teachings from the scriptures. That is Jnana Yagna. It helps to steady oneself, and one can come into that higher state of Gyan where Brahma Drishti is developed. It will take you towards that, and after that there is only Jivan Mukti. He says one is free while living. So this and the 12th one is pranayam. So he has collected it all. I like structure, so I liked how he had put it. We can go into it verse by verse, but it's sort of mixed up. So I like the way he had put it. Pranayam we spoke of last time, apana vayu. We spoke about how you offer your breath, the different kind of vayus in the body, and how you can regulate it and cleanse the subtle body, how there is breath retention, etc. So not going into it, that's a whole thing by itself. All right. Any questions? That was just touching on things we had studied. Oh, again, I've gone into this. Sorry. Okay, no questions. We can start. Now we'll start. Okay. So we are on the 32nd verse. When you can make all your actions or performances as yagna, you can come into moksha. So what are our actions like? What drives our action? Desires drive our action, isn't it? Why are you working? You're looking at the paycheck at the end of the month. Why are you working? Because you want to use the education that you have. You want to apply yourself. Or you simply want a certain sense of satisfaction, a certain sense of I can do something, I can contribute to society, whichever way. Okay. So our action is sakam because it is driven by desires. Action which is driven by desires is called sakam karma. Now, whenever we engage in sakam karma, Osho explains, after some time, even sukh will turn into dukh. This is something like how Maharishi Patanjali says that we all go chasing pleasures. Let me get married, let me get this job, and then I will be happy. But happiness is elusive. It stays for some time. How many of us sometimes we get the job that we want and still we have reasons to complain, either because of certain circumstances or whatever. So sakam karma, he says, it will turn your sukh also into dukh. Then there is a second kind of karma, which is called nishkam karma. Nishkam karma meaning I don't have any desire. I simply do it as an expression of my joy. Because I enjoy it, so I'm doing it. So there is no sense of this result should happen, or this is my goal, or I should achieve it. And some of you may have got a flavor of that in Krishna Connect practice. You are engaging in action. You were still engaged in action, but there was no ultimate goal. It had to be like this. It had to be perfect. I had to sing like this. I had to look like this. No, it was just an expression of joy. It was my way of connecting with the divine, and it was fine. Whatever you did was fine. So that was also an action, but it was nishkam. There was no real desire. It was playful. Let's see what happens. It was just fun. It was just playful. So, Nishkam karma is that. So, Nishkam karma, once a person becomes established in Nishkam karma, Osho explains, he says, then even dukh will become sukh. Dukh will not look like dukh to you. You will start seeing the beauty in everything. So, one experiment, he says, you try a simple experiment. Do something which has, we've done this a little bit in Krishna Connect, but see, do something without desiring any particular result or without any expectation. He says, do a simple thing like, go and do namaskar to somebody just for the fun of it. Just go do namaskar, not because you expect him to bow down to you or whatever, but just do a namaskar to somebody and see how you feel without any expectation. And there is something about, just joining your hands and bowing down. I'll tell you my a very personal experience. So, at my workplace, so most of the my team, they're all Americans. They're not familiar with our culture or anything. And then my boss said, we should have a 5 minutes of mindfulness or yoga, and Swati, will you lead it? So I used to do a little bit, just a few little simple movements and just a few breaths and just getting them introduced to Ujjayi. And I would just, close with a namaste and I'd bow down. So there are two people, and in whose faces I really saw this. I saw it, and later when I read this shloka, I realized, oh yeah, this must be happening. So there are these two ladies. Otherwise, normal ego, I do this, all of that is there. I mean, it's a normal, general human condition kind of thing. But the moment they did, they loved doing it. They would join their hands and they would bow down for nothing. They just liked the action. And I saw a sudden glow on their faces just in those few seconds. And I was like, how nice. They love doing it. Just the pleasure of putting your hands together and bowing down. It was for no reason. It was nothing. It was just something we do in yoga, and they did it. And I saw that glow. So there is something in it. There is something in bowing down that, and not for any expectation. And this idea will come again in a later shloka. But yeah, so that is the invitation there. Try to do something without any expectation. See what happens. Just experiment with it. Uh, okay. O subduer of enemies, sacrifice performed in knowledge is superior to any mechanical material sacrifice. After all, O Parth, all sacrifices of work culminate in knowledge. All sacrifices of work culminate in knowledge. Now, this is from Swami Mukundananda. See, many of us engage in actions like, कि भक्ति है, ज्ञान मिलेगा. So you may be engaging in actions like rituals, there is fast, mantra, chanting, pilgrimage, all of this. But if you're doing this as mechanical activity, then there is no bhakti and gyan that is going to come out of it. Swami Mukundananda goes as far as to say that you may as well not do it if you're doing it mechanically, just going through the motions. There is no point in it. So he gives this very, like he quotes this. I'm sorry. 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 What is going? I have. Mm, um, sorry, I had another
Hey,
win.
Swati, what is the issue? We're seeing your screen.
Yeah, no, but something else started. You can see my screen.
Just now you stopped it,
Yeah,
but it was working fine.
no, I had an audio start in the background. Maybe you couldn't hear
Okay.
it,
Yeah,
but
we could
I
not.
had another window. So Swami Sarvaprananda started. I was like, where is this coming from? Okay, so there is this Doha of Kabir, which Swami Mukundananda quotes, where, Kabir says, Mala pherat yug phira, phira na man ka pher, kar, kar ka man ke dari ke, man ka manak ka pher. Okay, oh spiritual aspirant, you have been rotating the chanting beats for many ages, but the mischief of the mind has not ceased. Now put those beats down and rotate the beats of the mind. So that's a problem. If you are not engaging in this activity, in these actions which are supposed to uh, enhance your levels of bhakti, which is supposed to take you towards gyan. If you do this mechanically, it will not do anything. And I want to see those of you who did Krishna Connect. Now you are invited to a puja. You go to a temple. Many times we just pick up the flower, we put it, we will do agarbatti. You may have done the same thing for Krishna Connect. Do you notice the difference? Do you notice the difference? Because what happens is we are so cultivated by tradition that when we go to the temple, okay, we will take that jo bhi the charnama and we will put it, but it sometimes becomes mechanical, especially if you have other people around. So many of us attend all those Navratri festivals when people, and it becomes all about food and dancing, isn't it? Where is the bhakti? It has just become about food, dancing, having fun. And, okay, we will decorate the Devi, we'll do this, but where is the bhakti? So there is no knowledge that is guiding it. I'm not saying it always happens. There are, but it's common. It is prevalent. These things do happen, and you will notice it in your own experience. So there is this example which Swami Mukundananda gives. He says that he gives the story of a man who was on his birthday presented a very ragged kind of a bag as a birthday gift. And, he thought to himself, oh, what kind of a birthday gift is this? It's such a dirty looking bag and all. And then he opened it. And when he opened it, he saw 1,000 notes of $100 and he was thrilled. And suddenly he realized that this is the best present I have got. So Swami Mukundananda says it is something like this, once you have the knowledge which is inside, which was hiding inside that bag, then the object also becomes precious for you. The object that is carrying also becomes, because you have the knowledge which is behind that. So just having the murti of Krishna or Devi is not enough. What is the knowledge behind that Krishna? What is the knowledge behind that Devi? What does she mean? Why are certain things done? So that knowledge helps us to deepen our connection with what is just outward appearance for us. So knowledge of its contents develops love for the object. So Krishna is explaining to Arjun that sacrifices which are performed in knowledge, in gyan in this sense, are superior to the sacrifice of material things. See, there is one example Osho had given, not in this chapter, but somewhere else, and I remembered that. So there is someone who is, you tell somebody that you have a diamond ring in your pocket. Just go check. Immediately, many of us will put our hands in our pocket and check and say, oh, someone put a diamond ring in my pocket. Let me check. Now, if you are told, you have God inside yourself, how many of us will stop and turn within and look for God? No, we are not. We are not drawn towards it. How many of us will make that effort that the most precious thing, God Himself, is hiding inside you? How many of us turn inside and try to search for Him as enthusiastically as we would search for that diamond ring in the pocket? So I like that example, and it just came to my mind. Okay. Then next shloka. The yagna of jnana, which is jnana yagna, is greater than, so same shloka. I'm bringing in Osho and my teacher James's perspective on this. So Gyan Rupi Yagna versus Agyani's Yagna. Now, see, Yagna always includes fire, right? So Osho is so funny. He says, चिता की अग्नि और यज्ञ की अग्नि में फर्क होता है. So चिता की अग्नि क्या होती है? So it's he says like normally the kind of yagna that we are doing as we live through our life, we are just pouring our desires into the fire of yagna, which is on inside the system, which is that fire of awareness. We are just pouring desires and vasanas into it. He says, when you pour just desires and vasanas into it, not to say that it is not yagna, it is something you're offering, whatever it may be, even if it's driven by desire. But in the end, it will create very cloudy kind of smoke, maybe even toxic smoke. But there is a Jnani's Yagna. In a Jnani's Yagna, it's something like true kind of Havan, which is where the fire is rising simply out of the way it is being fanned. Okay, the flame is based on whatever fanning is happening, whichever way life is flowing. It is not happening through your desires. Your desires are not getting poured into it. It is coming from a state of desirelessness. So he says Agyani's yagna, and just for you to know, when a havan is done, they use this mango wood to do a havan. When mango wood is used, it releases a substance that is actually purifying. It does not create the smoke which is bad for inhalation and it will create problems. It is not toxic. The havan which is done, if it's done with proper materials, and the understand that this is what Sadhguru calls as the intelligence of the materials. He does a lot of work with rituals and materials also. And he says there is intelligence in material. So there is a certain kind of wood which will never give out toxic smoke, and it actually has purification effect. This is the intelligence of that material. You can use that intelligence, for your benefit. So a Gyani's yagna is like that. There is more flame. There is not so much smoke. And a Gyani's yagna is full of smoke. Then he goes on to explain that you have desires, so your actions are driven by your desires. There comes a time when you get tired, I want this, I want that. Then you say, no, I'm done with all this desire. I just want moksha. Many of us graduate to that. I just want moksha. I just want liberation. But wanting moksha and wanting liberation is also a desire. So Osho gives this very fine distinction. He says, you must understand. Don't think there is a difference between worldly desire and desire for moksha. He says all desires are worldly. Desire itself by itself is worldly. Does that make sense? He says desire by itself is worldly. And this is where Osho differs from Vedanta commentators, where, Swami Sarvapriyananda will say, Ramakrishna says, desire for God is the only desire that you must have. It's okay, it's a good way to start people, but Osho goes a step deeper, a layer deeper, and he says desire itself is a problem. This itself is worldly. Even if you're asking for liberation or moksha or asking to be desireless, it is still a desire. So he says, see, what does desire mean? That I am not satisfied with who I am and what I have, isn't it? That is the meaning of desire. That jo hai, mujhe usme shanti nahi hai. Ashanti hai. That is why I'm desiring. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that means there is a state of ashanti, and you want that peace. So there is a desire for peace. Now, look at it like this. Desire means tension. Desire means जो है उसमें तृप्ति नहीं है, उसमें शांति नहीं है. Now, there is no such thing as a shant man. Please try to understand this. There is no such thing as a shant mind. Mind itself is ashanti. Mind and desire itself is tension. So Osho explains this beautiful. He says, see, there is a storm. Okay. Storm is tension. Now, when you say that the storm has died, will you find a peaceful storm by the side of the sea? No. Just like that, you cannot say that there is a shant mind. Mind itself is ashanti. To come out of that, you come into a no mind state, which is samadhi, which is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. When all vrittis dissolve, you are in a no mind state. That is param shanti. There is no such thing as a calm mind. It's an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. Okay. So mind is like that. When mind dissolves, silence exists, peace exists. We may say कि storm शांत हो जाएगी, but there is no such thing as a shant storm. Does that make sense? Just like that, there is no such thing. So desire, this is how he has explained that desire itself is a problem. You simply become an instrument of God. You don't say, I'm going to desire for God, hankering for God. No need to hanker. You simply allow. That is what he suggests. You allow things to happen. You be receptive. Ki jo जो उसकी इच्छा सो मेरी इच्छा. Align yourself with the will of God. Okay, that is how he explains it. That is what he says is Gyan Yagna. Live as though Ishvara is making you do everything, as though he is standing behind you to collect all the fruits. That is what that is how he explains. And among all the yagnas, Gyan Yagna is the Sarvashresht, which is where there is both knowledge and there is surrender as well. Okay. See, I don't know. Do you guys feel this? Like, I know we are not, all of us are not, we are not established in these states all the time, 100%. But do you, if your connection to the divine has deepened, I hear many of the fellow sadhaks at Isha talking like this: Devi made me do it. You know, Devi decided to move herself from here to there. Devi is bringing me to your house. They talk like this. And I see sometimes this happens to me also. Not all the time I'm established, but sometimes I see myself talking like this because, that connection is there. So I feel like, oh, now what are you making me do? Now, why do you want me to do this? Do you feel that? Is that happening?
I think I'm definitely listening to my inner voice. And when I'm doing that, I can feel that everything that I am seeing, listening, speaking, all of these actions that I'm doing, they give me a more satisfying feeling, a more
Okay.
feeling of fullness. And I think that listening and attunement, I think, has grown with me as I have been participating in these activities
Mm-hmm.
of doing I'm like very, very influenced by Yoga Sutras.
Mm.
But the understanding that Kaivalya is, I'm alone in this world, but I'm capable of you know I mean, I just definitely your sessions on Kaivalya are beyond imagination. They're
Not my
great.
sessions, they're all Osho. I'm
But
just.
but you have consolidated it, Swati, and
Mm,
I did not understand Kaivalya from earlier. So thank you for that. But I think
mm,
for me, it is about this realization when you said bond and bondage, right? How
mm.
we are actually creating that as a way of limiting our ability to feel things in with the strength and the I think as mothers, as women, our desires are very much to always make things, fix things, correct things, remedy things, solution things, provide. But I think the aspect of a woman being a provider, and in the sense that being able to witness things happen just by you know and I'm seeing more examples of that in literature and in other books that I'm reading now, is that by just being a witness to something and being allowing that to happen, and believing that it will take place well, with the
Mm.
thought that this is again what was meant to be, is is just letting things happen in the better way, in a more
Okay.
just the trust is allowing me to witness things and be more content in knowing that this is the direction it was meant to be, and it's all good. It's a very small, but it's just a better piece that I'm
That's
living
very
with.
beautiful because what you are saying is Jnana Rupi Tapas, that I am simply an instrument, allow that which is happening and be okay, align yourself to that.
Yeah,
And there is
and
peace. And
and correct. And there's this one book that I recently heard about and I read, and it's called The Choice, and it was by one of the Holocaust survivors. It's by a woman, Dr. Edith. She experienced all of that when she was a teenager, survives it, and then she goes on to becoming a doctor and practices psychology and makes helps many war veterans and people who are suffering. She's able to through her studies, like, she goes on to be a doctor when she's like 60, 65 years old. So it's a very unique story in that sense, that she takes her suffering and then comes to this country, and then has so much, once she herself faces, so she has a Viktor Frankl, actually she has a one-on-one with Viktor Frankl, and she realizes that nobody can, nobody has the power over you. You have the power in you to do what thought you're carrying. And it's like totally Vedanta. Every word that she's saying is making it sound like, she's living and breathing and, acting on the precepts, whatever we are learning. And, she uses the word an instrument, like she feels like she's an instrument. So like all that we are doing and learning, you're hearing people experiencing it, right? So what
Yeah,
better can be than that kind
correct.
of thing,
It's coming to them directly from their experience,
Yeah,
not through
yeah,
books. Yeah, that's
exactly.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Um, okay. Gyan Yagna is best. Live as though Ishvara makes you do, as though he is standing behind. So try this really, if your connection to God deepens, this will happen. You will start talking, you will find yourself talking like this. Oh, she made me do it. Oh, Krishna makes me do it. Now what is Krishna making me do? This will happen. So, all right. 34th. On hearing that sacrifice should be performed in knowledge, the natural question that follows is, how can we obtain spiritual knowledge? Sri Krishna gives the answer in this verse. He says, approach a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service to him. So this is from Swami Mukundananda. He says that in the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned the intellect of the soul is clouded by ignorance from endless lifetimes, covered with nations. The intellect cannot overcome its ignorance simply by its own effort. One needs to receive knowledge from a God realized saint who knows the absolute truth. And Chandogya Upanishad also says only through a guru you can understand the Vedas. So, this is how he has explained it. He has explained the three things. Now, I will share with you from James and from Osho. Osho says it's a very important sutra, and especially in our culture and the times that we live, know that by these three ways, pranipatena, pariprashena, and sevaya, wise ones who are knowers of reality will teach you gyan or will transmit gyan. The wise ones can just transmit gyan to you. So Osho speaks the idea of dandavat. He says, when you want gyan, learn to bow down. दंडवत करना सीखो पहले. जो दंडवत ही नहीं कर सकता, if there is that humility does not exist in you, and if you're too full, then no gyan is coming to you. And then we look at how, so when we want to know, we ask questions. Okay, so where are your questions coming from? What kind of questions do you have? Are your questions simply coming from a state of curiosity? I want to know this, I want to know that, just adding to more information, just to, add a little bit more feathers to your cap? Or is there genuinely a longing and thirst? So this is from my teacher, James, how he explained these three attitudes. He said, the first one, surrender, prostration, openness, humility, making yourself a patra, a fit vessel to receive, falling at the feet of reality. So he is more secular, so to say, in the way he approaches. So falling at the feet of reality, of guru, or whatever. Even our shastras at books, like many of you may see that when people pick up their Bhagavad Gita, they have a certain reverence. You don't just leave a Bhagavad Gita lying like that. How they look at their holy books, it is with great reverence. So that is the most important quality for a disciple, for a seeker. Then active inquiry, you could have a scientific way of looking at these things. And a third one is seva, service, by being present, attentive. So I'll speak on this. This is how James had given it to us. So Osho says, it's a very precious sutra. Krishna says, do dandavat, ask questions. Then those who know, they will show it to you. Now, the quality of a seeker is being explained here. There are people who are purely curious and they will ask questions like a child asks questions. Why does the horse have two ears? Okay, why does it have four legs? It's like, you, for the sake of asking, you can ask anything. But this kind of a seeker is not going to get anything. This is not the quality of a seeker. Then there is no real longing in them. They just there are some people who may just ask by the way, to maybe validate whatever they already know. So they are coming not out of humility. Oh, I already know. Let me ask and check what he also says. Like, you remember we spoke of that example when there is a seeker who goes to Buddha and he asks the question, and Buddha gives different replies to each one. That is there life after death? And Buddha gives a different answer. And there are people who will go to them knowing that there is no life after death, but let me check with him, let me get his validation. Like that, there is no real longing to know. I want to know. It's Sadhguru says, the uh, when the pain of ignorance becomes like a scream within you, that is when the guru appears. I have personally experienced this in my life in whichever form, like teachers will appear who will show you something or who will guide you. But it happens. So that pain of, you have to feel the pain of ignorance. If you don't feel the pain of ignorance, you're not yet a seeker. It's like, I want to know. Somebody has to tell me. And it can be like, I had huge struggles with my asana practices and shifts from one tradition to the other because I was moving countries and I couldn't understand. And then I found Manoj, and really for me, he was such a blessing. So many conflicts in my head, he just resolved. Like, he brought me in a samadhi because he gave me samadhan. He showed me what was right. He explained things to me. He explained, what he shared made me understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling and what was the best path to go. Otherwise, I think I would have become such a mess. I would have never known anything. So he came to me at a point where he sort of combined everything, and he showed me. Osho happened to me like that. It's like when I couldn't find answers to questions that nobody would answer, when I couldn't find answers to things that nobody was ready to speak about, I had to just do a search on Osho, and he spoke. He spoke on things that no one spoke of. And that's where, I really, he went out to say it like it was. I'll tell you, even among Vedantins, I don't find that as deep. They don't go as deep because they are doing public talks and they are scared of saying out these truths loud and clear, and not, maybe they're correct, because it will create chaos in the minds of people. People don't have that level of maturity, so I understand where they're coming from. But what happens when your seeking is so long and you really want those kind of answers? Osho says it like it is, to your face. He will he I have so committed to truth. Even if you read about his life and things that he has said, he's so committed to truth. He will stay with it and he will say it like it is. So I got answers. I got answers. Solutions happened. Mind began to settle down. It began to withdraw. So all right. So there are people who will just ask because they want validation. And then there are those who want to know because the pain of ignorance is there. So Osho says that Gyan is also like a flow. If you are uh, uh, if you're not too fluid, if you don't allow it to flow, and see, energy flows from high to lower channels. That's how it is. That is why you must do dandavat, ready to receive from the guru. Only then that energy can flow. So in classical guru shishya relationship, classical, in a guru shishya relationship, many times there is a transmission which is non-verbal. It can just happen. If you are in the presence of the guru, the transmission happens. That is why there is a lot of emphasis on darshan. Bhagwan ke bhi darshan hote hain, depends upon your receptivity. And if your receptacle is ready, who knows? There are people I have seen who go in temples and they have tears running down their eyes. I've seen people like that because they have prepared their receptacle and unko darshan ho jata hai. It's like literally a darshan of Bhagwan. And there are people who has, like, in the presence of guru, I mean, in our own satsangs I've seen and others, people have those kind of experiences. So they say a living guru, that is why lose an opportunity to be in the presence of a living guru, because in that darshan, what cannot happen by your own effort, etc., can just happen in that moment, in the presence of a being that carries this. But it depends upon how well your receptacle is prepared, how ready it is. So you have to be in that dandavat. You can't go with, oh, let me check out this guru. Then you're shopping. Then you are higher than the guru. Guru is somebody who chooses to reveal himself depending upon your receptivity. Just like Krishna chooses to reveal himself to Arjun because Arjun has a certain receptivity. Arjun is not in criticism. Arjun is in maitri. He's in intimacy with Krishna. So this Dandavat also has an occult aspect to it. So, when we touch in our tradition, we touch the feet of elders, we touch the feet of Guru. Now, when we do that, the Guru places his hand on your head and your hands are touching his feet. So, if you notice, there is a circuit of energy that is formed from his hands to your head to your, you're in prostration and your hands are on his feet. So that is a circuit of energy, and you draw the energy from his feet. That is why there are people, sometimes they will say, don't touch my feet. I know of that also. Some people who are doing certain energy work or whatever. So the energy goes, you take the energy from his feet and he passes it on through his hand. There is a circuit of energy that is formed. Through that, some transmission happens to you. That is why. That is why, for blessed beings, for saints, we go and touch their feet. We do pranam, because that's how, if we have that receptivity, we also become available to that energy. So there is a story that Osho shares about a king. He says the king has these wise men in his court, and he asks the wise men that, all these shastras speak that Brahma is just like the salt in the ocean. If you have tasted the salt, you will know Brahma. We say that you know a little bit of salt, you know the taste of the whole ocean. That is the analogy that is used. So he said, show me how the salt is Brahma. Now, how do the wise men answer this kind of question? So he said, no, you have to show it to me. So the wise men have no answer. And he says that if you don't have an answer, don't come tomorrow to the court. So nobody shows up. And the doorman is standing there and it's past the time and nobody shows up. Then the doorman says, I don't think anybody's coming, but I can give you an answer. So the king says, you will give me an answer to this question. The wise men don't know and you know. He says, yes, I can give you an answer. But you have to do one thing. You have to come down from your throne. So he comes down from the throne. And then he stands in front of him. And he says, now you go down on your knees and you do dandavat. So he orders him around like this. The king has never been ordered. The king has never bowed down to anybody. He has never prostrated. He has become frozen. So, but he is a little bit awed by how this doorman is talking. So he goes down on his knees and he bows down and he feels very good. Suddenly, all the stiffness in him is relaxing and he's feeling so nice. Then the doorman says, you can come up, you can sit up. He says, no, let me stay here a little longer. It feels nice. A moment of gyan happens, a moment something opens, something bursts within us, within that king. So that is the importance of dandavat. You become soft, you become fluid. Akad, jahan stiffness hai, energy flow nahi karti. It will not flow. Gyan is like a dhara, it needs flow. So ask like a sadhak. Osho says, don't ask like a scientist to find evidence and to make proof, and don't ask like a child. Just, कुतूहल है, ये क्यों है, वो क्यों है, इसका कोई मतलब नहीं है. So ask with service. Then, this idea of service. This is another way. So in our tradition, Osho explains how, if a disciple had a question, he would go and live with the guru in his ashram. And the guru would tell him, you you keep doing a seva. Whenever the guru feels the disciple is ready for an answer, he will then answer his question. Otherwise, he will not answer. The state of mind for that disciple is ki whether he answers me or not, I have an opportunity to do seva for my guru. This is the greatest that can happen to me. So he can wait for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. Maybe after 3 years, the guru decides to answer his question, or he may not even answer, and he may tell him, you go do this or whatever. He will still not complain, and he will simply thank him for giving him the opportunity to do his seva. So this seva ke bhav, this bhav is also very important. That's this bhav of service that with this bhav you should approach with a question. All right. Next verse is Arjun, knowing that real Gyan, you will no longer return to confusion. By this fullness of Gyan, you will see all beings, all of manifestation as one in yourself and then in me. So if you get this kind of the real Gyan, then obviously you're enlightened. Then there is no confusion. That's what Arjun wants. He's so confused right now. That's what all of us want. If we have absolute clarity, no confusion, I always know what I want to do. I know what is appropriate. How nice. Then I'm always in a state of peace because now there is no mind. So we need to understand this. Gyan, when Gyan happens, it first hits mamatva. Mamatva is ahamkar, correct? Why? What is Arjun's problem right now? My grandfather, my guru, his own are standing in the opposing army. So when Gyan happens, it's almost like cauterizes, it's like that fire, it cauterizes, it cuts this mamatva. And as soon as this mamatva disappears, the first ray of Gyan shows up. That's when Gyan happens. So Osho explains this very nicely. He says all these people, who have love for wealth, it is not so much as love for wealth. It is a love for me. It is a love for myself, because to live in the world, you need to survive. To survive, you need wealth. So it's not love for wealth. It is about how I can save myself. If I have money, I can build a house that protects me. So I can save myself. So it's not love for wealth. It is love for myself. The root is that we all love ourselves. There is a lust for life. We spoke of Yayati. So this lust of life is strong in all human beings. And and we take everything is like a survival measure. So Osho gives this very nice example. He says there are people who will say, I'm crippled, I'm handicapped. It is better to die. I would rather commit suicide. Do you think that they want death more than their life? They want to commit suicide. You may think that they want death more than their life. Actually, it's not true. What they want is not death. They want an alternate life. Look at it. It's very subtle. They may say, इससे तो अच्छा कि मैं मर जाऊं. I want death. They don't want death. They want to live. If you give them a better life right now, they don't want death. They want their life should be like this, conditions. These conditions should be fulfilled. This is how my life should be. Everybody deep down is very attached to life. They say they want death. They may make such statements, but death is not what they want. If I don't marry this girl, I'm going to kill myself. I will die. You don't want death. You just want a life with that girl, an alternate life. That is what you want. So there is a deep attachment to this me and mine. So if death, Osho has given this thing, if someone is crippled and says that this kind of a life, better that I die. So he says, if death comes knocking on their door, they will withdraw. Deep down, they will withdraw. They may make statements like this, but it's not true. So there is a moh for jivan, that lust for life exists. people who say that I'd rather die, they are basically in a deep complaint to Ishvara. There is a deep complaint that this life is not okay, alternate life. And but so the idea is that everybody wants to save me, because save myself, because there is a lust for life. We all, abhinivesha, we spoke of in Yoga Sutra, lust for life. I want to save myself. The fear of death in Maharishi, in Yoga Sutra, Maharishi Patanjali says exists even among the wise. He has made this statement there. The fear of death is like that, because we are all attached to there is that attachment to me. We want to save ourselves. It's a natural inbuilt thing in our software. So the point is, how can you save me? Because me is like a wave in the ocean, isn't it? Me is like a wave in the ocean. Today you have sprouted, you will live for 80 days, 80 years, and then 100 years, and you will pass back into the ocean, isn't it? The only way this wave can survive is if it becomes frozen. If it freezes, it can survive for some time, maybe a little longer. Now, if wave freezes, this freezing of the wave, Osho likens it to ahamkar. He said a frozen wave is ahamkar. It is stiff. It doesn't want to merge back. It does not want to flow. So he says love is full of flow. And you must remember that love and attachment are two different things. Those who have attachment, they don't have love. And we tend to we all confuse love and attachment. So basically, we are all attached to our thoughts. We love others because they increase our sense of I. You're my friend, you appreciate my thoughts, you are like-minded. So they are increasing my sense of I. And so we get attached to them. Are we genuinely in love? Love means to let go. I simply celebrate your presence. That is love. I simply celebrate your presence around me. This is love. But I engage with you, I talk with you, and this, my sense of I is slightly ballooned up because of this. Then that creates bondage. That relationship is attachment. Love means to dissolve and to melt. That which is ready to melt, that is love. So Gyan can only happen when ahamkar dissolve, when this melting happens, when you become fluid. If you become like a frozen wave like ahamkar, nothing is happening, no Gyan is happening. So, so Gyan means that in a state of Gyan, you will be able to see God in all, correct? Ishvara, he says, Krishna says that you will be able to see all beings and all manifestation as one. It will happen to you if love begins to flow through you like this. So Osho gives this very example from his own life. He says, there was somebody who came to our ashram and he would say that, yeah, I see God in all. I see God everywhere. I see Ishvara everywhere. So Osho does an experiment. He takes a stone and he throws it at that man's foot. And he screams and he says, why are you throwing a stone at me? So Osho says, but you said you see Ishvara everywhere. So why are you saying that I'm throwing a stone? Why don't you say that it is Ishvara that hit you? So, that's how we tend to project. This is called projection, where you're just projecting, where you are imposing your idea, but you have not really come from a place of seeing. Seeing has not yet happened to you. So when that seeing, and why does seeing not happen to us? Why are we in Agyan? Because of body identification. Body identification happens because of ahamkar. Now, one very important thing, he says, we see outside whatever is inside of us. If you don't see Ishvara inside, you cannot see Ishvara outside. It's like that. Whatever, there is this very nice saying from the Talmud, I think I shared with you last time. It says, you don't see things as they are, You see things as who you are. So if you are established in Ishvara consciousness, then you will see Ishvara outside also. But if you are not established in Ishvara, you will see that stone. There is no Ishvara inside you. So, and that is the reason why there is no point in saying that we are Atma, because that is Mithya Gyan. Then you are superimposing that idea. You don't really have the Gyan of Atma as Atma. Then it will become mithya gyan. You start saying, oh no, but soul is amar. I know the soul. We don't have any experience of soul. Then you get lost in mithya gyan. It is better to be a jnani and say, I don't know what is soul. At least then the journey can begin towards gyan. And once gyan happens, then you come into a Satchitananda state. Then you come into Anand. And Anand is a state which has no opposite. It is beyond Sukh. Sukh has an opposite. It's called Dukh. It is still in the realm of duality. But once you come into a state of Anand, there is no opposite to it. Anand gets replaced by Anand gets replaced by Anand. That is how it is. And that has been beautifully explained in Yoga Sutras. All right. We will take this up next time. Where did the other slide go, yeah? 1 second, huh? 35, 36. This slide. We'll do this slide. Okay, important one. This is an important one. So I think I mixed up one thing. I moved it up. Even if you are the worst of wrongdoers or missteppers or sinners, you will be able to cross the mire of all wrongs with the raft of Gyan. So if you have Gyan, no matter how many sins you've committed, you can still get past it. Krishna says that because Arjun is worried. No, he says, I will accumulate so much sin by killing all these people. So Krishna is showing him that path of Gyan. He says, if you come into Gyan, you don't have to worry about all this, Arjun. Arjun, just as a blazing fire burns all fuel into ashes, so the fire of Gyan, of knowledge, wisdom, awareness, burns all karmas to ashes. Very beautiful. Very, very, I loved this explanation. Now, the fire of awareness, which allows us to act, this fire of awareness can free us from all karma bandhan. Now, here there is talk of pap, wrong action. Can I have videos on? I only have Shaila on. Difficult to talk like this. Thank you. All right. Okay, so here he's talking of wrong actions, of sin. So pap are actions that hurt us also and others. This is pap. We know what is punya. Punya is good actions, auspicious karma. Now, as human beings, we have a long line of pap, isn't it? We've been here for so many lifetimes. Who knows in what lifetime, how much pap we may have accumulated. So, is it possible that can a drop of Gyan dissolve this? Krishna is saying that if you come into Gyan, oh, everything will dissolve. What about all my past account of all the pap that I may have committed? Now, the moralists, or they say the Neti scholars, the Neti Shastris, how do they talk? They say if you have to cut your pap, you have to do punya. Do one pap. If you've done one pap, do one punya action, then you can cut your pap. Now, if you keep going like this, it is infinite. It will never happen. Osho says that is how a moralist talks. But Gita is not at that level. Krishna does not speak at that level. He is speaking of Gyan and awareness. He says, suppose there is, he says, how will you cut pap like that with punya? Pap cannot be cut with punya. For example, he says, even in the process of living, pap ho jata hai. Just the process of living, you're walking, bacteria dies. Living jantu will die if you turn around, some other bacteria dies. That is why, in Jainism, they cover their mouth, etc. So even in the process of living, paap ho jata hai. How can you cut it with punya? How will you keep these accounts? This is not the way to get rid of paap or sin. It is through gyan that you will get rid of all your paap, anything wrong that you may have done. How does that happen? Osho says that पाप की कोई गठरी नहीं होती है, that you keep collecting and putting and you have to go one gठरी by one gठरी. So suppose a house has been locked for 1,000 years. Okay, now you don't need to light 1,000 lights to remove the darkness of 1,000 years. You just go open the house and light one light, all darkness is gone in one moment with one light. This is how gyan cuts all pap. He says a gyan is just like feather, it's just like feather. You can imagine it like a guttery of feathers of many lifetimes. You just put one fire, everything burns. In one go, everything will just burn. So don't think about cutting pap with an action of punya. It is not going to work like that. That is why they say, no, punya karma is nice. It will bring you sukh, but sukh will bring dukh again. Bhagavad Gita is not about doing punya karma. I mean, nobody's telling you don't do punya karma, but the objective of Bhagavad Gita is take you towards awareness and liberation. Go past punya and pap. Punya paap mein mat pade raho. It is nice to do punya karma. If you do punya karma, you will have a nice life, but you will be back again in the circuit of birth and death. You will be born again. You will not come into liberation. This is a moksha shastra, which is telling you to come into liberation, which will happen through gyan. So through gyan, you can even cut pap. Don't think that you will be held into that just because I have done pap, I will have to keep coming back into this cycle of birth and death. No, if you focus on gyan, you don't focus on punya, because if you focus on punya, it will keep you in that circuit. If you focus on gyan, even if you have done pap, it will all go away. You don't have to balance it with punya. सो ओशो बोलते हैं पाप को पुण्य से नहीं काटा जा सकता, सिर्फ ज्ञान से काटा जा सकता है. एंड he gives a very nice analogy that he says an agyani's mind is like a camera. It captures everything and everything clings to it. And a jnani's mind is like a mirror. When you are facing it, it is there. When he removes from there, it is out. That is why he's always in the present moment. And agyanis like us are never in the present moment, because we are like cameras who have so many layers and images. So how can you be in the present moment? To be in the present moment, you should only be a mirror that is reflecting what is right now. Next moment, if it's not there, it should not be there. But so difficult to live like that. with mind, it's difficult. If you transcend mind, yes. So Krishna tells Arjun, don't be karta. If you become a karta, then you can come into gyan. So a karta means just become an instrument. Just be an instrument and do your action with absolute involvement. And he says that if you work like that, even if these dead bodies, even if these bodies fall dead, not even a drop of blood will be on you. Osho says it is the boldest statement that has been made ever in spiritual literature, that the bodies will fall dead when you engage in action, and not a drop of sin will come on you if you do this with akarta bhav, if you do it in a state of gyan. It's like Hanumanji, he also fights for Ram, but no pap comes to him, because he is just doing it as an act of offering, as devotion, as this is to be done for him. That's all. So that is all for today. We will continue next time. Wait, I had one more slide. So this is something which I wanted to just share directly. Oh, sorry. So what is karma? It is not material, it is emotion or thought. Karma is not born of a person or atma, but agyan gives birth to karma. Remember, agyan is what gives birth to karma. ज्ञानी का कोई कर्म नहीं होता है, because he is already established in akarta bhav. So thought wave of agyan is karma. Gyan does not dissolve karma. Gyan destroys agyan, which is the foundation of karma. And that is why it gets dissolved. So karta disappears. The karma of an agyani is like lines drawn on rock. They don't disappear. Karma of a jnani is like lines drawn on water. You can barely draw the line. It will disappear as soon as it is drawn. Agyan is forgetfulness. Yes, so that's something which I wanted to just re-emphasize and establish. Okay, if you have anything to share, I'm done. All good. Next class, we will complete Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. We'll meet on Sunday. What did I say? 9 p.m.? I forgot. 9 a.m. Sorry. Last I had written 9 a.m. Sunday is good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fine. If whoever comes, if it's good for you, we'll meet Sunday 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. What did I write? I forgot. I wrote to people. Oh no, sorry.
Yeah, you said 9.
9, no? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll meet at 9 a.m. on Sunday. We will close this chapter, then we'll begin on chapter 5. Okay. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Anything that touched you? Anything that was like giving you aha moments? I had aha moments when I read with Osho about the punya and the pap ki gatri, and just gyan can take it away, and that you don't need to light 1,000 bulbs or
Yeah.
to open a house which has been dark for 10,000 years. You don't need 10,000 lights. That is such I thought it was so nicely explained. You just take one light, that's all. So nice, so nice, because this punya pap thing is so common in our culture. And I really liked how he just explained that, and how gyan does not cut karma. It just dissolves agyan, and that's the foundation of karma. If agyan is gone, there's no karma. And in Sadhguru, when he teaches us these practices, when he initiates, he says that to us. He says, sometimes people say, no, but I don't feel anything is happening to me. So he says, even if you don't feel it, that is just your sensitivity, but it is happening. He says, all that warehouse inside, it is crumbling. So when the time comes, I just have to poke you like this and it will all drop. Only the facade is kept. But inside, all your Kriya practices is crumbling that karma, is dissolving it. You may not, if you're very sensitive, you feel, sometimes you see manifestation, but sometimes you also see things like, sometimes you will see things really improving, some things getting so much better. Sometimes you also feel ki, some things may be getting more difficult, or you may be feeling that you're losing control. Sometimes that also may happen, but it's just a release. That also has to happen, and you should allow. And it's a better way of releasing than, going through actual events. First, it will be slow, it will be long. When you do it through your Kriya, you may experience certain emotions or whatever, but it's just part of the cleansing process and it releases. So that also happens. But anyhow, yeah. Anybody else, anything? Or we'll close. Okay, then let's just close. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you. I'll see you on next Sunday. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Swati.
Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Take care.